How did my girlfriend take it? She didn't take it well at all, which is really extraordinary, actually, to me, because I guess even believers sometimes, or people who have the openness, open-mindedness to believe, when it hits close to home, I guess imagine your partner coming to you and saying they're pregnant. Do you wonder if they cheated on you? Or if they really were abducted by aliens and became pregnant? I don't blame her for having the issue that she ended up having, especially when I moved out and I wouldn't allow her to be a part of any of this. And it was my journey and it was happening to me. And I felt as though it was up to me what I should be doing. And I think maybe because I left, maybe as validation to her, she thought I cheated on her. Ultimately, I feel like she thinks I cheated on her. We didn't do well. We broke up. It ended my relationship with her. And so it didn't go well with my girlfriend at all. We were broken up by the time the child was gone. So after several months of being moved around and staying on people's couches, I mean, it's hard. It is psychologically hard on me. I kept wondering, like, is this really happening? I mean, how can this be happening? How am I pregnant without having had intercourse with a man? I mean, how? I thought about the Mother Mary. I often wondered after that, like, was Christ a hybrid? Like, I mean, all these weird things jump into your head, like, how is this real? How does this work? How is this even possible? And so, I continued to be moved around. And, during the time that I'd had a fight and a breakup with my girlfriend, she kind of made a point that I brought back to the team of women, my circle of women. She said, listen, whether or not you did X, Y, and Z, and I don't really care at this point, you're having a baby. This is a baby. This is a real baby. You're pregnant. You're really pregnant. You need to go see a doctor. And I'm like, I'm doing all the prenatal stuff. It's okay. She's like, what are you going to do? Have a home birth? I'm like, I don't know. I hadn't really think about it. Yeah, you should probably start thinking about all of that. And so I went back to the women. We had a conversation about it. And they said, absolutely, yes. Several of them had home births, so we could do that. And after a long debate, ultimately, I wanted to see, go to the doctor and get a sonogram and see how the baby's doing and check up on the health of the baby and everything like that. And I was terrified. And we had this conversation, like, what if they do a sonogram and it doesn't look human? What do we do? So after long debate, a woman got back to the group in a separate meeting and said she'd spoken to her doctor, and her doctor was willing to have me come there and be seen off hours. I don't know how she felt like she found a doctor that might have been. Ultimately, I think the doctor had something to do with this. But anyway, that she called and made an appointment, and I had been staying with her, and they didn't tell me when they were going to call and make a new appointment, but obviously an appointment had been made because I woke up one morning. I sat straight up in bed and I grabbed my stomach and I just screamed no. It's like I knew, and my stomach was completely flat, no bleeding, no placenta stuff passing later, no miscarriage, just gone. So upset, I was so angry and upset and hurt, and like I had all these hormones running through my body, like I'd been pregnant and all of a sudden it's not there. And yeah, I felt deep loss, deep loss, and rage and anger that had been used like that, and that my feelings hadn't been taken into consideration, and that, yeah, I felt deep loss, and I felt a lot of anger during the time that I was pregnant. I used to swing a hammer for construction, and that's what I did. And during the time that I didn't, like when I was pregnant, I didn't want to swing a hammer. I was doing all the things to take care of myself. And so I got a job driving a roach coach, basically a construction truck with food in it. It goes around to the construction sites and it gives construction workers food on break and stuff. And we used to call it the roach coach. And so I did that. I started driving, and I continued to drive after I lost a child because I was wrecked emotionally. All these waves. I can imagine the levels of grief. I got stuck on anger. I got stuck there for a long time. And so I started calling men in my unit. I started calling other men in my unit. I called the commander of my unit. I started asking us. This is in the early 90s, before cell phones really, and before any of that. And it took a long time to call around and try to get a hold of people. And a couple months went by, and I had started to think, I really withdrew. I went and got my own place. I stopped speaking to the women in the women's group. I went through all these emotions. Like, the anger was sort of like, did this actually happen to me? Did I psychosomatically become pregnant because somebody told me I was pregnant after I had a weird experience? All the stuff that runs through your head is overwhelming. And so I wanted answers. I was calling around and said, is it true that the government made a deal? How can they dare? How dare can they? How do they get away with this? How is it that this is allowed to happen? I was just didn't care who I upset or if I said something wrong to get me in trouble. I wasn't thinking about that anymore. I was so driven by rage. Somebody was going to answer to me. Months went by, nothing. I was still driving for the roach coach. I was just going through the motions. My girlfriend had called me, my ex, I guess, at this time, and said, hey, you left some stuff over here at the apartment complex. Why don't you come by and get it all? Leave it in the living room for you. So I decided I'd swing by the apartment complex, and I was still in the roach coach. It was near. I figured I'd swing in real quick and grab my stuff and go put the roach coach up and go home. When I drove up to the assigned parking place, there was a black four-door sedan sitting there with two men in black suits, and one had a hat on. They both had sunglasses on, dark sunglasses. Now this is before the Men in Black movies, okay? I think it was a year or two later those things came out. I hadn't heard about the Men in Black. When I'd spoken with the women and the people who knew about this, nobody told me about Men in Black. I don't think it was really widely known, at least by civilian people back then, or people who were a little bit in the know. And I drove up and I got out. It's like I knew they were there for me. It was like, and they were just standing there looking at me when I drove up. Opened the door, I slammed the door, I got out and I walked around, and they motioned for me, to come over to the car. And I was like, it's about in time that I got somebody's attention. I was just dropping the F-bomb everywhere. Does people get away with blah, 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 blah? And I just going off. And I go around the car, like they're motioning, and I get into the passenger side behind the driver, and the driver closes the door, and they get in the car, and they back up, and they start to drive. At this moment, I realized, one, I got in a car with two people who had not yet said a word to me, that I didn't know, and I didn't know where we were going, and they were refusing to answer my questions. And so here I am in this car driving. Well, I did a lot of specialty combat stuff in the military, and was in Taekwondo and did a lot of hand-to-hand combat stuff. It was just had propensity for it, and so I was accelerated at it, and then I ended up teaching it, something that I did well. And so I'm very highly trained to utilize anything around me to cross off somebody. And so when I realized they weren't going to answer me, and I looked down and I realized there was no door handle, open the door, there was no lift to unlock it for the latch or anything like that, I realize I'm in trouble. So my adrenaline starts to run. My adrenaline is very, very strong. I've had issues with anger and my temper my whole life. Got it from my mom. And my adrenaline started to go, and I started to analyze what I had at my disposal, including the seatbelt that the driver had on, and I was about to choke him out. And I was starting to reach forward to grab the seatbelt to choke this guy out, and then I was going to turn and break the window and try to get out after we crashed or something, I don't know. Well, the next thing I know, I'm sitting, looking forward, straight forward, my adrenaline is gone, and I'm completely calm. And I've been about 20 minutes driving because I was familiar with Colorado Springs, and where we were was going around and up through this one highway through Manitou Springs towards the backside of NORAD. And so I came to like, whoa, because when my adrenaline goes like that, it takes me a good couple hours just to walk it off. Extraordinary amount of adrenaline that would run in my body. And so to do different things. Anyway, I was sitting there and I thought, what in the world? What's going on here? And so I looked ahead and I went, nobody touched me. So they had to have been able to do it mentally. Whoa. Okay, I heard about it. So let me see. They don't know I'm psychic. And I'd been developing my tools with these older women in this psychic group. So I go into the head of the person in front of me, driver. And all I kept hearing is the grass is green and the sky is blue. Grass is green and the sky is blue. What do you mean the grass is weird? Later on, I find out that that is a defense mechanism against psychics so that you can't read their mind. Okay? Then I look over at the passenger in the front seat, the one that's got the hat on, pulled down over his ears, and I kind of lean down a little bit, and I'm like, whoa, those are weird looking ears. Are there ears there? What the fuck? Excuse me. Excuse me, because it's just, how do you, I noticed he had a bigger head, didn't have hair. What is going on? And so I said, okay. I'm gonna go into his head. So I started to psychically go into his head, and I felt the sharpest pain in my head, like I'd been shocked. And I snapped back and I went, what is that? And I was unable to get into his head at all. And then I blanked out again. The next thing I know, we're rolling up to an entrance of NORAD I've never seen before. Probably another 30 minutes later or so. Okay, I've never been in here before. I've heard about it. And I know it's not someplace you really want to be taken. So, here we go. We drive up into NORAD.
The more that we actually learn about the world we're in, the greater the mysteries.
1 in 50 American adults had experiences that could point to abduction.
It's extremely brave for someone to make their story public in this arena.
We'd look away and the ship would light up, and the next thing is just, boom, it's gone.
Men and women have been taken for purposes of reproduction and hybridization.
I was abducted.
I wake up and there's such a bright light.
They would tell me to look in their eyes.
They're controlling your thoughts.
Inserting this gigantic tube inside of my body, it's painful. I'm now looking who this man is. He is inside of me. It's a screen image of the reptilian. They began the insemination process.
A new embryo is created, and that little hybridized embryo already formed is implanted in the womb, and she will gestate.
They always want the children in fetuses.
I would go in for my appointment and there would just be no baby.
With a very long needle through the belly button, would go into the uterus and they would find the fetus.
It holds on to the fetus and pulls out.
And then they bring this little girl in the room.
and he said that she's yours.
This beautiful eyes, this face, and I see myself in the child.
She was emanating her feelings. I was shocked.
It was nobody's right to impregnate me and use me as a laboratory rat.
I went from 210 pounds to 115 pounds.
These beings that are doing the abducting don't have the same morality as we do.
They don't think what they're doing is wrong.
Hearing other people's accounts will make you go, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone.
Who are we serving? We need to ask those questions.
Look, human beings taken animals in the wild and bred them. Can we be bred into something different? The answer is absolutely, of course we can.
Educate yourself, be open-minded.
Don't be dismissive.
People have been taken.
You can't ignore this anymore.
Make up your own mind. Don't let anyone ever tell you how to think.
Sorry guys, not all ETs are good.